looking at me, what do you see? You probably would say a 20-something, tallish, dark blonde and brown-eyed girl. Or maybe you'd go with healthy, a runner, or, oh, she's pretty stylish. You would never think that there's a scar that runs down half my back. You would never think that I'm considered to be disabled. You would never think that when I was in 9th grade, I was so sad about how people judged me that I wished I was in a wheelchair so that people could see my disability. I have spent my whole life trying to navigate through the perceptions that people have of me just from looking at me. You would never think an 11-year-old girl would hate to ride the elevator every day when she didn't have a fear of elevators. But when I was in 9th grade, I hated it. One day, I stepped into the elevator with a friend and a teacher. The teacher demanded to see my elevator pass and then continued to question why I would be there since I wasn't on crutches or in a wheelchair. I thought to myself, hey, my super cool rolling backpack should totally give it away. But it's true. I look like everyone else. Don't get me wrong, I didn't want to stand out. No middle schooler does. But even then, I knew I wanted people to know just from looking at me that I was disabled so they wouldn't doubt me. I was born with a condition called spina bifida. It's a rare neural tube defect in which your spinal column doesn't completely close. Many people born with spina bifida have their entire spinal column exposed to the outside world, leaving them confined to a wheelchair with severe learning disabilities and other neurological complications such as fluid on the brain. My mom always said I had the best of the worst case scenario since I had the least severe type of spina bifida, but my spinal cord was tethered or stuck to a bone. At 5.5 weeks old, I had surgery to repair my spinal cord. Due to my amazing neurosurgeon, I was given the gift of walking. I never take that for granted. I know how lucky I am to stand here in front of you. With this miracle, though, my disability became invisible. With this blessing came great challenges. You would never think from looking at me that I'm any different. Until 4th grade, I didn't realize I was. That's because I grew up doing what everyone else did. Learned how to ride a bike, played basketball with my big sister, and had my very own butterfly fly swatter dance that I did on my tiptoes as a toddler. Well, maybe not everyone has a butterfly fly swatter dance. But when 4th grade rolled around, everything changed. I was in tremendous constant pain. I had to stop participating in physical education class. I had to stop doing tennis and golf lessons. I had to get an individualized education plan in 6th grade to accommodate for my needs at school. It became at that time that I had to start navigating my peers giving me a hard time for why I got to sit in the cushion chair in all my classes, and then had to defend myself when a classmate told me that I couldn't be missing a window of bone in my back. That's because to him I looked like a normal 11-year-old. Despite how hard all of it was, I still didn't feel less than anyone else. That's because of my family. I was fortunate enough to have both of my parents go to every single one of my doctor's appointments, holding each one of my hands. When I was scared to go, I was always reminded that while what I did have brought its challenges, I was lucky enough that I didn't have to get off at the 4th floor of Children's Hospital Philadelphia, the children's cancer floor. With that gentle reminder, my parents taught me perspective, perseverance, and grit. They taught me that my back didn't need to define me. It just shaped me. It's due to my parents' incredible strength and dedication to helping me face my circumstances that built the foundation that I stand upon. You would never think that the hardest part of navigating my invisible disability during school age was because of teachers. Fun fact, I went to a high school with no walls, which made for a really fun game of hide and seek as to where my cushioned chair could be each period. One day, at the beginning of 9th grade world history, my chair was missing and I had to locate it. I quickly was able to spot it, which was a huge score, and went to grab it from the room while the teacher was talking to a student. As I was leaving, I heard from behind me, "Hey, what are you doing with my chair?" I turned around to see dismay written all across the teacher's face, and I nervously answered, "It's actually meant for me since I had spinal surgery as a baby." She then replied, "Next time, I need to see a doctor's note." I was not only humiliated, but I was also crushed. She thought I was a liar. What 14-year-old makes up that she had spinal surgery as a baby? Years later, I understand why she did what she did. In the classroom, you have to make split decisions all the time. But had she been a more empathetic person, she wouldn't have questioned me. She would have processed that I said spinal surgery and even apologized for stopping me. She would not have made me feel for the first time in my life that I wished I was in a wheelchair. She would not have made me feel for the first time in my life that I had to start lifting up my shirt to prove myself to people. You would never think that the best thing to happen to you in high school would be your teacher being furious at you. But when my world history teacher found out, he was furious for 2 reasons. The first being that this even happened to me. Before even going and sitting down with me, he went to the teacher and made her realize the impact that her words had. The second being that I felt I couldn't go to him right away. That's what made him particularly upset. He sat me down and stressed to me that he was there to help and protect me. It was in that moment that I sat across from him that I realized what empathy meant. It was in that moment that I sat across from him that I knew I wanted to be like him one day, a teacher who cared deeply. Empathy is essential, both instilling empathy in others and having empathy yourself. I pride myself on being someone who tries to understand what others go through. Look, I even once consoled a student who told me that his dog had died as the reason why he didn't have his homework, even though I knew he didn't have a dog. I, of course, went to the guidance counselor over that one, but still looked to give him the benefit of the doubt. Is it hard to do that sometimes? Absolutely. But it's worth taking a moment to try to put myself in someone else's position. I have taught 6th grade science for 6 years. For the past 3 years, on the first day of my body systems unit, I've had a not-so-typical science lesson, a lesson on the power of empathy. I share my story. I tell them everything, from the science behind spina bifida to what happened to me in school. I show them pictures of me as a baby and a diagram of spina bifida. I've answered every question they have. Can you play sports? Can spina bifida be cured? If you could, would you give it to someone else? I get these questions because I tell them I'm an open book. I want them to know because it makes me who I am. It shows them what I stand for and why I teach them. My story makes me human. And when I tell my story, I stress the significance that looking at me, you would never know. You would never think I'm different than anyone else. Maybe you've never thought about the impact of your words. Maybe you've never thought about why someone behaves the way they do. Maybe you've never thought about whether or not you have influenced a defining moment in someone else's life. Even if you have, my challenge for you starting today is to take the time to act with empathy. Are you up for the challenge?